Hi guys, and welcome back to Dafty in the Garden video with me, Sean. Today is part 2 of how to set up a worm farm in a bathtub. Now, what we're going to do is I'm just going to take you through it step by step, setting up the ground layer and all the way up. And I hope you enjoy. If at the end of the video or halfway through you go, yeah, I'll go down in the comment section, just before a comment, I'm going to subscribe and hit the like button as well. So let's just get on with this. So as you can see, this is just the bathtub. Now, before we can start putting things in here, we need to have a concern about runoff. Now, runoff is for what's called leachate. Now, with leachate, every worm farm has it, every worm bin has it, and this is just one large worm bin or worm farm. Now, the reason I've done it in a bathtub is so that the runoff can happen and go through that plug. So for a lot of people may be going, what is runoff? What is leachate? Well, leachate is just toxic water given off by organic matter. Now, if you're going to use leachate from your worm farm, your worm bin, I would do a 1:2 ratio, 1 being the leachate and 2 being water to dilute it as much as possible. And you can use it on your roses, your bushes, your flowers, not anything that you're not going to physically eat. First things first, as you can see, some stones at the bottom there. Now, stones let water run off. So to test it, here's the empty bucket, no water in it. Put that in position, and first things first is to test where it lets the water out. So let's have a look. Now, there's no way that a worm farm is going to let that much water out at one time, but as you could probably hear, that's actually running through the bottom there. And all you need is some material that's going to let the water run through and actually gather up at the bottom. There you go, all that water at the bottom of that. So that definitely works, letting the water through. Next thing I want to do is create a layer so that it lets air through the plug hole so it gets up, and also let water run through here as well. Now, what I went for is just some baskets I found near my house. Basically, some people flinging away some rubbish and things like that, so I basically found these things and I thought it would be great for letting some circulation flow through. So all we've done here is put some stones or bricks, in my case, because I had them just lying about the garden, to keep these crates in place and also give the next layer some stability when it came to not moving and things. So that's what we're going to do on next, is we're going to put the next layer on. Now, I found this next layer really difficult to try and find because 1, I don't have shade cloth, 2, I was going on Gumtree and things like that, and I couldn't get anyone to actually give me like an old trampoline that fell apart. So basically, in this occasion, I actually forgot that I had like this really old car covering for the windscreen, and that just works just as well. So I'm going to put that on this next layer here. Now, as you can see here, I put a couple of extra rocks in, more than I actually thought I was going to start with. So all I've done there is I've got some of these mono blocks that a friend of mine, Stephen, gave me. Thank you very much, Stephen. So basically, going from here, it gave me like a border to work around all the way around the edges, and I've just wrapped this material, giving me a solid area in the middle to work with. As you see, this section here is still sticking out because the material here is just a little bit too short, and the same with that end as well. But I think it looks okay, and it gives me an area to actually work in and feed in, and I know exactly where that's going from. So now that we've got the material that actually lets air come up through the dirt or the bedding, and letting water drain through. All we need now is the bedding for the actual worms to go in. So what I'm going to be using today is paper, some old shredded up cardboard and things like that, but you can use many different things. I'll just spread that out over the area that I want the bedding to be in. Now you want a bedding like this to be like a well wrung sponge. A little, if you've ever seen me doing the bedding before for worm farms, link there at the top for a previous video, and a smaller worm bin. But basically some of this is a bit dry still. We've got a wee tag along spider here, so we're just going to take him out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to test the bedding and see how that feels now. There's no water coming out of that, which means I don't think I'm happy with the texture there. So I'll do a wee bit more water, and I think that texture is perfect. That's quite low for bedding, so we'll need to get some more bedding put in there. I'll shred some paper, shred other stuff. I've got an idea. I've got like an old composter that I recently built this year. I'm not happy with the design and things like that. There's a lot of material that has been breaking down slowly, so we'll stick that material on top. And we'll come back after that's been added. So I've emptied one of my old compost bins that I wasn't really that happy with. You can see there's a few like twigs, big bits of paper and things like that, and there are a lot of things for the worms to eat. Also, which will help with the breakdown and making really good worm castings, is you're going to get springtails and things like that. A lot of things it's already pre-active and partly composted down material there. It means it's not going to warm up in your worm bin, and it's actually going to make really good worm castings here. So the last thing really to do is to add the actual worms and then put a small covering over top. So that's what I'm going to do now. So all I'm going to do is use one of my old worm bins, and as you can see there is a lot of worms here. So with a bigger space they should just break this down in no time. Let's see if we can break this up. They're all kind of scurrying away from the light because they do not like the light at all. But as you can see, a lot of worms there. A lot. That's just a lot of food. So I kind of want to add one more layer to this before we really finish. I went to see my cousin who has horses and basically wanted to take some horse manure. Now the reason why this is a couple of days later than when I was setting all this up is because I need to wait like 2 to 3 days with fresh horse manure sitting, just in case the horses are had any medications, things like that. I don't really want to damage any of my worms, so leaving that to sit so long and aerate and things like that and break down a little gives the poo enough time to get rid of any of the kind of medication so it doesn't actually harm the worms, and then I can add it to the wormery. So that's what I'm going to do now. So the kind of black material that you see me adding will be the horse manure. So I could leave this worm bin for about 3 weeks to a month, and so just occasionally coming out, making sure that it's damp enough for the worms to live in, and just see if I need to feed it anytime soon. And as time goes on, the level will start to drop lower and lower, and just as you're adding food to it, and you will get beautiful worm castings that you can use in your garden. Double checking your area where your leachate would be coming out, making sure that if that needs emptied anytime soon. A well maintained worm bin or worm farm shouldn't have that much leachate. Yeah, all I'm going to do now is just put a mesh over the top, and where that's us done. All I've done here for the top layer is to try and keep some moisture in and stop the evaporation, is put some dried cardboard at the top. Now as time goes on and it starts to kind of break down, things like that, and I start adding food to it, I'll probably put only one of these in, and it'll be over the section that I've actually put the food in, and then it's so I know if that's the end that I've put the food in, it means, right, okay, I'm going to put the food up at the other end, and then I'll cover that up, and vice versa, so that we'll get the worms moving right through the actual bath, and actually compost things right down pretty well. Now that's it all set up. As it says, everything's well watered down. Worms seem quite happy. I've done a wee check on them. They're actually right out at the bottom. Just leave them to be. It's quite a warm day and it's quite a dry day, so they'll be keeping well out of the sun. And that's us done. So that's the video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you'd enjoyed, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button and comment. Tell me what you think about it. I love to hear from you. Now, I really enjoyed this build and I hope you did too. So that's another Dafty in the Garden video for another week. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Catchy Versace. I'm pure Dafty, man. Pure Dafty. Wiggly worm. Wiggle, 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 wiggle worm. Yeah.